Welcome back. Continuing the news. The protocol for the controlled re-entry of Jamaicans overseas is complete, but the foreign minister is reiterating that those wishing to return will have to fund the trip. Camilla Johnson-Smith says applications are now being accepted for re-entry. O'Shane Masters has more.
At a media briefing yesterday, Foreign Affairs Minister Camilla Johnson-Smith noted that Jamaica cannot afford the travel costs for the hundreds of Jamaicans stranded overseas.
We know that many of our citizens, however, at whom these protocols are targeted, so not the general overseas community who always wants to come home, but our citizens who traveled before travel restrictions were implemented globally and who now wish to return. We recognize that they mostly have return tickets for flights which would have been cancelled. And accordingly, we have started informing the airlines of our new protocols for controlled re-entry and advising them that nationals who still hold tickets for their airlines will now be seeking to rebook once they have received the travel authorization through our new online portal.
Mrs. Johnson-Smith stressed that returning Jamaicans will have to agree to be tested and to being placed in government quarantine for 14 days as part of the repatriation process. She said there would be limited access for relatives. In the meantime, the Foreign Affairs Minister says persons experiencing severe difficulty overseas will be given high priority for return.
If you have been identified as a high priority travel recommendation, if you are someone who we have been in touch with and already providing assistance, so we know that your needs are verified, urgent, and critical, then you will be flagged for priority in consideration once the other matters, that is your health sign-in, your travel document verification, have been approved by the relevant authorities.
Mrs. Johnson-Smith also noted that the returning citizens will not be allowed to take public transport upon their return to the island.
It won't be the type of situation where your family comes to the airport to greet you, etc. There will be managed greeting, plainside, and organized transportation immediately from plainside to the location for quarantine, where you will be tested for the COVID-19 disease at the start of the quarantine period.
Though we have adopted a risk-based management approach, it doesn't mean that we dispense with strategies such as controlled re-entry and contact tracing. We need those strategies to be in place to prevent outbreaks.
Now, as to the Jamaicans who arrived in the island between March 18 and 24, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says a significant number of them have now reported.
By and large, I gather that maybe a few hundred, maybe 200 or 300 have not reported, but by and large, most have reported, and I want to thank them for giving us the information, because that information allows us now to plan, to deploy resources, and to have a good idea of what the threat could be.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.